think that rent prices are ridiculous for what you get for it, and they need to be regulated much more heavily. I often compare this to a friend of mine who was actually my boss at the time, so earning more money than me.
Yeah.
And she had she went to buy a house 2 years after I did. House prices had gone up by about 50k, which is crazy.
Sure.
Like, I got so lucky that I bought my house when I did. Not only that, she had a mortgage offer accepted by the bank, offer on a house accepted by the bank. Then Liz Truss happened, and it all fell through. In the years since, she spent about £50,000 on rent that's just been, thrown down the toilet. It's crazy how much, as soon as you get on the property ladder, how much everything opens up for you in terms of the money you can save. Is so much easier to save money. It's so much easier to, invest in other things. I could spend the same amount as what my friends do each month, put 500 in stocks and shares, and that 500 turns into 1,000 by the time I want to spend it. Rent is actually crippling for people my age.
This is a superb contribution. I'm so grateful to you. Well, in many ways, I was expecting the more powerful contributions to come from the other side of the divide, but I don't know why, because you in some ways, you have a much better view, don't you? Because and the fact that she was your boss, that's such a powerful moment, isn't it?
It was almost awkward because we were friends as much as you can be friends with your boss. And, well, no, I do like her, but she was.
Of course, no, I know what you mean. She could still sack you tomorrow.
Well, I was invaluable.
Of course.
But it led to some awkward kind of conversations where we're going, society is just unfair. There's no point.
I hadn't thought of that, because you've got that. I mean, there's always the possibility that you're going to be, you're going to be the child of very, very wealthy parents, and you're at the bottom of the work ladder, so that you're going to be spending your weekends or your holidays in places that even your boss can't afford to go or go by. But do you know what I mean? But that would have been so exceptional and so anomalous when I was growing up. It would have involved people who were epically blessed. You're not epically blessed. Your parents managed to find 40 grand. It's not exactly the holiday home in the Maldives or anything like that kind of territory, is it?
Do you know what's crazy now, though?
Go on.
Looking at it now, I still have a mortgage. I've still got £80,000 or something to pay off on it, which is a great position to be in at my age.
Sure.
But if I had, if I had kids or was completely immoral and wanted to buy a second house to rent out because I had no moral fibre whatsoever.
Okay, go on. You've upset a lot of people then, but it was Matt that said that, not me.
Don't worry, James. That was intentional to upset those people. They're evil people and people should be put to the sword. But
people need landlords, Matt. You can't. I mean, obviously you're speaking metaphorically, but we may open up this line of the conversation later.
I'd happily discuss that, but that's a different point. The point I was going to make is it's so much easier for me. I reckon I could get another deposit sooner than she can get her final deposit.
Yeah, you could, because you've got equity.
That's the other thing. I could borrow off my own house again.
Where does it end, Matt? I mean, you've already given us one fairly big milestone, which is if you've got access to the bank of mum and dad, you're going to actually be more asset rich than your bosses fairly soon. That's an extraordinary observation which hadn't even occurred to me. Where does it end? It's a sense of an apocalypse on the horizon.
I've got some stats for you. So there's in the year 2000 there was 2.5 million homes that were rented. In the year 2025, it's 6 million. If it continues to go on that trend or just stays at that, it's about a quarter to a third of our population that are renting right now. If a quarter to a third of our population never own a home, then what happens when they retire? Because their pension won't be able to cover their rent, and we're going to have like a significant proportion of people. So I think there's going to need to be something done with landlords other than just throwing them in a big pot, which is my solution.
You're not. I mean, you're going to be cheered and booed in almost equal measure on that, although probably more cheered than booed, to be fair. I mean, that is the point. I've asked that question on the show. We've never actually dug into it. Is it a sort of exercise in collective ostrich? Are we all just? I mean, is it as obvious as you and I think it is that there is an absolute reckoning on the horizon, or is it possible that the clever people know something that we haven't quite worked out yet, you and me?
I mean, I think that there's some clever overlords that are thinking this far in the future is very optimistic. Because
you're a master of understatement, Matthew. Very optimistic indeed. Isn't it? I love that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll fend off all the angry landlords that you have just.
Get me back. I'd love to talk to them in person. I'd love to tell them exactly how immoral they are.
Tina is in High Wycombe, as promised. What would you like to say?
I'm a parent, and I'm one of the people that I could say, on paper, we are privileged. I own my own home. My kids went to university. They're both doing very well. Can't afford to get on the property ladder, paying a fortune in rent. I feel a failure because I can't give my kids that step up that their cohort have. You know, they've got parents that bought flats for them in London. They've got big deposits. We also have another thing which I think is a ticking time bomb. Everything that I can give my children is locked up in the house that I own.
Yes.
I am terrified that I will use any equity I have in care home fees. I saw both my parents, and I had to use every penny they had on their care. And I was fine about it because my husband and I were in a situation where we had our home. We had a mortgage then, but we were okay. Our kids had been brought up, and we thought the social contract was we gave them a good education, that they did their duty, whatever, that they would be in the same situation as we are now. They're not. So I'm absolutely terrified that I will not be in a situation that I can give anything that I own to my children, because I don't want it. I don't want to live like my parents did and, live a lesser quality of life.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that? I don't know what that last bit means. Sorry. I'm probably being a bit...
Sorry, it means that my parents both died in very unpleasant circumstances. My mum had a very bad stroke, lost her ability to speak and eat. My dad had Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
So all the money was spent on their care. They had no dignity, no quality of life. I don't want that. I would rather give my money to my children, but there's no facility for that. So you have a situation where you've got parents like me who feel like an utter failure because we can't help our kids, and are seeing exactly what this caller before said, that all their money is going on rent.
I mean, and of course, as you will acknowledge, it is in the great scheme of things. You're not going to be at the front of the queue for anybody else's sympathy, are you?
No, absolutely. And I don't want their sympathy. All I'm saying is that...
Well, the social contract should be something that we all care about. And increasingly, and in a growing number of subjects on this programme, it is pointed out from people from a dizzying array of perspectives and experiences that it is not working. It is being broken. The other end of the deal is not being kept. And there's no particular... I mean, I don't know whether you buy lottery tickets or not, but there's no particular light at the end of the tunnel you're describing, is there?
No, because everything I can afford to live. My kids are okay. They're very lucky, and they know it, and I know it, and I know I'm in a lucky position. But what I hate is that I can't help my kids get to the same position that I was in, and even though we're in the situation. And so I can only imagine how hard it is for everybody else, and that is the tough thing. That
how does it affect them?
If you work hard.
Yeah, exactly. And well, I mean, I think that Matt's boss not being able to get a property when he, by benefit of his wife's grandparents, he could. That's going to take some beating as a thumbnail sketch of how bad this situation is, isn't it? How does it affect the kids, Tina?
I think it's the level of inequality. I mean, they're bright kids. They're good kids. Yeah. They understand. You know, my youngest just said to me recently, she said, "Mum, I know how lucky I am. I just don't feel it."
And that means that the ground beneath her feet is not as firm as the ground beneath your feet was when you were her age.
No.
And that's going to speak to psychology, to mental health. It's going to speak to all sorts of things that may be largely invisible. Listen, Kathy has said something which you have prompted her to think, and you prompted me to think it as well. And I'm going to very cautiously put it in front of you and wonder whether it's something that you've thought about as well, because a couple of the things you've said suggest that it might be. She says... Kathy writes, Tina, your current caller, is the reason why I worry so much about them wanting to bring in assisted dying. That's
not the reason why. I'm absolutely the opposite. I would and this may sound completely immoral, and I don't really want to go down this, but I would rather not be here. I would rather, if I didn't have a quality of life, I would like the choice, because I saw both my parents in very difficult circumstances.
So I mean, she's speaking to that thought, but you're speaking to a slightly different one. I mean, she's imagining a parent who thinks, even regardless of quality of life, who thinks, right, I've had my time and my kids aren't going to be able to have financial security as long as I'm here, so I'll shuffle off this mortal coil now, which isn't an option.
That's what I to be honest, that is something in my mind.
Blimey. Chris is in Thornton in Lancashire. Chris, what would you like to say?
Hi, James.
Hello.
Slightly terrified, so bear with me.
It's only me, Chris. It's only me.
I know, but just a bit of a comment, really. I'm just been listening, and I just wanted to kind of add me 2 pennies worth. As I was saying to your researcher, I've just bought my first house at the age of 52.
Gosh.
And I know, and I've got I work full time, I've got a reasonably well-paid job, etc., etc.
Yes.
And my rent was in the other house was £750 a month, and my mortgage is £766 a month.
Right.
So it's £16 a month more. But
mate, I may not be the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I had worked that last bit out myself.
I know. But just to give it some context, the only reason this is a 2-bedroom terrace house. It's not, it's not. It's a run-of-the-mill house, and the only reason why I was able to do that was because my mum passed away and left me and my sister a little bit of money, which I used for the deposit. That was the only way I was able to buy it. And
so you can afford to pay the mortgage because you were paying exactly that for the last however many years. But in the absence of being able also to save for a deposit, property ownership would have been forever out of your reach.
And it was terrifying because I'm 53 now. What happens in 15 years' time when I retire?
I don't know.
Exactly. How do I pay that?
That's what's on the horizon. I mean,
that's what's on the horizon.
That's one of the reasons Kathy brought Dignitas into the conversation, because what are people going to do when they get to it's a bit Soylent Green, isn't it? How can I ask you does it feel different to be a homeowner, regardless of your age? Do you feel that your relationship with society is different or not?
To be honest, James, I feel safer. I feel more secure, because there's always that 8-week eviction.
That's what I meant about the ground between Tina's daughter's feet being firmer than it, being less firm than it was when Tina was her age.
Yeah, I mean, I've had these no-fault eviction notices in the past. We've had to move, perfectly settled. Luckily, was able to find a house around the corner.
But it's still not ideal. It's a form of hypervigilance, isn't it? I mean, the things that we need most, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Exactly. It's Maslow, isn't it?
I think it is. Yeah.
We collected the keys from the estate agents on a Friday afternoon, and I went to pick my son up, who lives around the corner with his mum. Yeah. He's here half the week, so it affects him as well.
Yes.
And we walked in the door. I unlocked the door, and I said, "Reuben, nobody can touch us now."
Oh, mate, stop it.
It still makes me quiver thinking about it. You know what I mean? But it's that important on my basic need level. It's that important. And, it's like, this is going to be yours one day, Reuben. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just crazy.
And the gap is growing. And the gap is growing. And you snuck in, really, on the right side of the gap by dint of your mother being able to leave you a relatively small amount, and if she hadn't,
it wasn't. It was a relatively small amount.
Yeah.
Because the lady before my mum had a massive stroke and was in a care home, she was self-funding that herself. So, what a surprise! There was anything left at the end of it, I think of this house as Mum's house somehow.
That's lovely. And Reuben's. That's really lovely. Really, really. You've put tears in my eyes, Chris, actually. And I'm not the hardest man on the block, but I wasn't expecting it this hour. I really wasn't. God bless.